Artificial intelligence is on the verge of changing pretty much everything in healthcare. How we spot diseases, how we plan treatments, it's an incredibly exciting time. But with any new frontier, there's always a bit of a Wild West phase. Today, we're going to look at how a group of experts is finally bringing some law and order to the world of AI in dentistry, making sure this powerful new tech is something we can actually trust. So, where are we getting all this from? Well, it's all based on this brand new paper in the Journal of Dentistry called Evaluating Dental AI Research Papers. You can think of it as a much-needed guide for the scientific gatekeepers, the people who decide what research actually sees the light of day. And this wasn't just one person's idea either. It's a consensus, a real team effort from an international group of editors and reviewers. The whole thing was led by first author Dr. Sergio E. Iribe, who's with both Riga Stratums University in Riga and the Ludwig Maximilian University of Munich. So you've got this global perspective coming together to solve a truly global challenge. All right, so here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll talk about the promise and the problems of AI in the dentist chair. Then we'll look at this new guide for the gatekeepers, cover the 4 big quality indicators and the major red flags to watch out for. And finally, we'll get to the most important part, why any of this should matter to you. Okay, let's dive in. AI is already starting to pop up in dental offices, and honestly, its potential is absolutely massive. But, and this is a big but, behind all that hype, there's a pretty significant problem that we really need to talk about. I mean, the promise here is truly game-changing. We're talking about AI that could help dentists spot a tiny cavity on an X-ray way more accurately, or help them plan out a complex surgery. It could even predict your risk for certain diseases, help find early signs of oral cancer, or design the perfect braces for you. It's amazing stuff. But here's the catch. The paper points out that there's been a kind of gold rush to publish AI research, and a lot of it, well, it's just not very good. So many studies are missing the scientific rigor needed to prove they actually work. It's created this digital Wild West where it's tough to tell a real breakthrough from, digital snake oil. So the big question is, how do we fix this mess? And that's exactly where this paper comes in. A global group of experts, these scientific gatekeepers we talked about, like journal editors and peer reviewers, they all got together to build a solution. What they've created is basically a rulebook. This guide helps those gatekeepers tell the difference between solid, clinically useful AI research and studies that are just flawed or overhyped. The goal here is simple. Make sure that only the most robust and trustworthy science makes it into the journals that dentists actually read and rely on. And this is the million-dollar question, right? How do you actually separate the good from the bad? Well, this paper lays out a super clear blueprint for what high-quality AI research needs to look like. What's so great is how these experts took this really complex problem and boiled it down to 4 essential quality indicators. It's a clear blueprint for cleaning up the entire field. Let's walk through them. First, the AI has to solve a real-world clinical problem. It can't just be some cool tech demo. Second, it needs a rock-solid, transparent methodology. That means the data is good and the process is crystal clear. Third, and this one is a biggie, it has to be reproducible, meaning other scientists can test it and verify the results. And fourth, it has to be reported ethically, without exaggerating what it can do. Yeah, the authors are not messing around on this point. They're basically saying that if other researchers can't test your work because you won't share your data or your code, then what you've published isn't really science. They call it more of an advertisement, where the author is just saying, hey, trust me, I did the research. And that is just not good enough for medicine. All right, so now that we know what makes a good study, let's flip the coin and look at the other side. What are the common red flags that get these AI papers thrown out? The top reasons for rejection probably won't surprise you. Number 1, the study isn't new or doesn't solve a real problem for dentists. Number 2, the methods are shaky, or the authors just haven't explained what they did clearly enough. And number 3, the AI wasn't tested nearly enough, especially on data from other sources, which makes it impossible to know if it actually works in the real world. The guidance even gets into the nitty-gritty of language because the words we use really shape how we think about this tech. For example, people love to say an expert's diagnosis is the ground truth, which makes it sound like a perfect, unchangeable fact. The paper says, hey, let's use reference standard instead. It acknowledges that it's the best expert opinion we have, but it's still an opinion. It's a small change, but it's a crucial shift away from promising perfection. And look, these ideas aren't just coming out of thin air. There are already established guidelines out there to ensure quality. Think of them as detailed checklists, like Dental AI or START AI. The problem is they get ignored way too often. So this new consensus is a huge push to make following these rules the norm, not the exception. Okay, so at this point you might be thinking, this is all well and good for scientists, but why should I care about this when I'm sitting in the dentist's chair? And that is a totally fair question. The answer is critical, because what happens in that scientific review process doesn't just stay in the lab. It directly impacts the safety and the quality of the care you and I receive. Think of it like this. A strong peer review process is the barrier that stops flawed, unproven, or overhyped AI from ever getting into the clinic. It's what ensures that any AI tool your dentist uses has been thoroughly checked out and proven to be safe, effective, and actually beneficial for your health. And that checking out process is pretty intense. A high-quality AI tool can't just be tested on the same data it was trained on. No way. It has to be tested on external data from different places, different machines. But the ultimate test, the gold standard, is still a randomized clinical trial, where the AI is tested in the real world to prove it actually makes patient outcomes better. And that really brings us to the ultimate takeaway here. This new guidance is all about matching the hype to the evidence. The paper makes it clear. Any claims about what an AI can do have to be backed up by how much testing it's actually been through. It's about building a foundation of trust so that when AI does show up in your dentist's office, you know it's the real deal. In the end, this isn't about slowing down innovation at all. It's about making sure innovation is done right. Dentistry is building its rulebook for trustworthy AI right now. And it kind of leaves you wondering, what part of medicine needs one next?